Well, welcome. It's great to have you join us here on the Leadership Lounge. We are looking at a really interesting topic today. We're going to look at the topic of imposter syndrome, and we have something really quite perhaps unusual that's going to be said to you about it. Now, we hear probably a lot about imposter syndrome. Maybe we even experience it and feel it too. Now, the term imposter syndrome actually stems back to a 1978 paper produced by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Eames entitled The Imposter Phenomenon in High Achieving Women, Dynamics and Therapeutic Intervention. Quite a long title. They initially coined it imposter phenomenon while observing feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt amongst successful women despite evidence of their accomplishments. Now, this might be controversial, but we're here today to tell you something important. We believe there is no such thing as imposter syndrome. Now, before we get into a fight, because you think you experience it, hear us out. Firstly, it's interesting that the original writers didn't label it as a syndrome, but they called it a phenomenon. And secondly, because the words we use to describe feelings we have are crucial. And my hope is today that we can be liberating many of our listeners by changing the words and how we feel about it. So I'm here today again with Anna Hennell-James. Welcome back, Anna.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. And I've chosen you to hold a bit of a tricky debate around there's no such thing as imposter syndrome.
A biggie.
But we hear that phrase, imposter syndrome, a lot. And I just want to, as we start off, just clarify the definition. It's the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So that's the definition. Now, before we get into the perhaps slightly heated debate of whether imposter syndrome exists, have you ever come across that feeling in yourself or in others?
Definitely. Absolutely. Quite a lot, really, particularly if you're maybe doing something different or new to a role and you've got to kind of get your head around a lot of stuff. So basically you're maybe winging it. And then there is that constant feeling in the pit of your stomach of somebody is going to figure out that I actually have no idea what I'm doing. And then it's all going to come crashing down around me. And also I've seen it, where you get somebody maybe directly challenges you on something.
Yes.
And rather than being able to be confident in, no, that is right, I know what I'm doing, you start to doubt yourself. And those little thoughts start to come in of, oh my goodness, maybe they're right. Oh, I don't actually know what I'm doing and how am I going to move forward from this?
Yeah.
And I've also seen it a lot with colleagues who have got to the stage where I feel they're ready for the next step and there would be promotions or different roles they could apply for and something stops them. It's holding them back, and it's that, that belief within them that, oh no, I can't do that. I don't have the skills, I'm not clever enough. And they don't move on when they could, because it's kind of something they're just getting in the way and not allowing them to just move forward. And what about you, Colin? I can't imagine you've experienced it, Colin.
Well, I have, yeah. So I often, when I'm talking to people, describe, I let mine come out and I describe it and I use it. So mine would be, I am the son of a farmhand. Yeah, so my dad drove a tractor. He didn't own the farm. He wasn't a farm owner. He just drove the tractor. When we grew up as kids, we actually really didn't have a lot of money. My memory of my dad was, we couldn't afford a belt, so he'd just make one out of bale twine, so it was just that bright orange stuff that you used to use to tie the bales up with. So I guess as a child, I grew up thinking, well, we are a poor family. We went on benefits because mum wouldn't have us on benefits. Nope. That wasn't for her. But we didn't have a lot of money. So I grew up with that sense of feeling perhaps not as well off, therefore, in your mind as a small child, you'd say, I'm not as good as some as the others. We are just this kind of family. So I guess that's what stemmed. Now, what was different perhaps is my parents always brought us up with, as long as you do your best, there is that sense, just do your best. That's all you can do. So we grew up with that sort of growth mindset, really, which meant I did go on to achieve things. But there was a bit like you're describing, perhaps particularly when I became a head teacher as well, there was this sense of someone's going to catch me out. Someone's going to
find
say,
out.
the fields need to go and cleared. Go back into what you should be doing. What are you doing in here? So there was that little subconscious thought. And I guess it would particularly be if you felt a bit out your depth. So if there were some things that maybe other people knew a bit more about that I didn't, that's when that could particularly creep in. So certainly did.
So what's the impact of that on people then, or on you when you are feeling that imposter syndrome?
I think the impact is certainly for me, and when I've seen it in others, it holds people back, doesn't it? It brings that lack of confidence. It's the story that you internalize, and then it makes you feel smaller. So it certainly impacts confidence. It might then, because if you feel smaller, you're probably, the part of your brain you're going to be acting in is more in your amygdala, your fight or flight thing. And therefore some of the rational conscious decisions that you're making, your frontal lobe, are less kicking in because you've got a bit of cortisol, a bit of stress in you. So that's what I've seen the impact. What about you? What impact have you seen?
Well, I think, personally, I felt that self-doubt leading to that lack of confidence, and then maybe in a meeting or something you don't participate fully because you're too busy sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, if I say the wrong thing, or people are going to realise I shouldn't actually be sitting around this table because I don't actually know what I'm doing, and therefore that then, because you're then sitting there not saying anything, that's then fueling it that actually what are you doing there if you've got nothing to contribute. So it becomes that belief that you're not good enough becomes almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're telling yourself that, and therefore that is then what you are portraying to other people.
It's interesting you describe that. You almost, and as you're saying it, I can recognise you're almost not then present. You're not present in the meeting because you're present in your thoughts. You're present in this little cycle then of not being good enough. And then, as you say, the irony is you do then become not good enough because you're not present in the moment.
In the moment,
because you're honing on that thinking.
So Colin, if you and I are both saying we have felt this and we've experienced it, how come you sat there and very boldly said imposter syndrome does not exist?
Yes. Well,
how does that work?
How that works is, for me, it's about this word syndrome. So I'm going to put my glasses on, so I'm going to read. So the definition of a syndrome: a group of signs and symptoms that occur together and characterize a particular abnormality or condition. So it's the word syndrome that's the issue for me. And actually I hear lots of people in the same line as me, as in coaching or in, that kind of professional development side of things, using this word imposter syndrome. And every time I hear it, it makes me cringe because it's the word syndrome. Because I think when we call it a syndrome, in our mind, it's then something genetic. It's something that's unrecoverable.
That's inherently part of us.
Of us. So for me, it's the issue about the word syndrome. So, and this is where we can unpack it. I think it's imposter thinking, not imposter syndrome. So
if you're saying it doesn't exist as a syndrome, and we have the feelings, and it's actually our way of thinking.
Yes.
That is getting it. So what change do we need then?
So if it's imposter thinking, then thinking can change. So what happens is our thinking, our thoughts lead to feelings. So if we're thinking, I am not good enough, I am not worthy, I shouldn't be here, then we start to feel that. Our thoughts become feelings. So we now feel that I shouldn't be here. We start to feel inadequate. And then those thoughts and feelings then become actions. Because if we think and feel inadequate, then we'll start to behave inadequate. Now, it's interesting you were saying earlier that when your thoughts are elsewhere, that was then again affecting your actions, because then you're not present in the meeting, which means your actions are not demonstrating your ability. You start to demonstrate your inability. So our thoughts become feelings that then become actions. Because the brain is almost like the rudder or the steering for how we behave. So thoughts, feelings become actions, and then the more we have those thoughts, feelings, actions, they become a habit, And the more we do those thoughts, feelings, actions and habit, it then becomes part of our character. So the thing is with a syndrome, if we're telling ourselves that it's something that it's genetic, it's something inherently in us that we can't change.
Just how I am.
That's just how I am. Then that means we stay that way. But I think it's imposter thinking. And therefore, if our imposter thoughts can lead to imposter behavior, if we change our thinking,
we can change our
behavior. Therefore, we change the habit. Therefore, we change the character that we become as part of that process.
Okay, that's great, Colin. So what I'm understanding is it's the thinking that is causing the problem. So what do we need to change in terms of our thinking? How have you worked through that for yourself?
Yeah, so if we go back to my one, so I'm the son of a farmhand, and if I have that thinking that I am the son of a farmhand, then I'll feel like I'm the son of a farmhand. I'll almost go back to how I perhaps felt as a child, or I'm not as important as the farm owner. I'm just the son of that person, and I'll start to feel smaller. So then I'll start to behave a little smaller. So it's interesting, as you were describing your one, your mind goes elsewhere.
Yeah.
You then feel, I feel smaller. I feel I can't contribute. And therefore, our actions of contribution become smaller. In your case, the one you were describing is you just go quiet. In my case, it might then mean that I don't feel so confident in my answer because I'm seeing myself as, I'm just a mere son of a farmhand, sir, and so then my behaviour then becomes perhaps subservient, rather than seeing than the confidence that I can bring as part of that process. And then, of course, if you get caught in the loop of the more you start to feel that way, the more you behave that way, you almost then start to project in your character as someone that's a bit lesser. So changing your thinking, going back to, actually, I'm not just a son of a farmhand.
Yeah, but just.
It's the word just, isn't it? Yeah. I do have experience of being the son of a farmhand. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit later, about how we can really turn that round. I was, and I still am, the son of a farmhand. However, I am also now this, and this, the experiences that I've had. So the first thing I think is just acknowledging your thinking, but saying I'm not just that, I also have got these experiences since that mean I bring this to my game. Actually, I've done this and this and this since. Now my thinking changes because I'm not just that. So then I don't feel just that. I feel now all the experiences. So what you're doing is you're kind of, Steve Peters talks about when your chimp gets agitated, acknowledge the emotion and remind yourself of the okay. So what we're doing in this process is saying, okay, I am the son of a farmhand, but I've also since done training in this, done this many years experience as a teacher, and then I was this many years experience as a head. And so I've got all these things I'm drawing upon. So I'm now reminding myself of the okay. And then I can build
and not getting caught up in that thinking loop of I'm not good enough for this.
Because I've now added to it, I am also all of these things. So now I start to feel, because I'm reminding myself of the okay, of the experiences that I've had, I now start to feel more confident.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Anna, are there areas that you've come across for yourself or others which we could unpick and change the thinking on?
Yeah, so I obviously in my professional life, I have had to deal with finances and money and things like that, but I would be the first person to say I'm not particularly a numbers person. That's not a key strength of mine. And generally in the organisations in which I've worked, there's been somebody else whose responsibility was that, and you rely on them to do the key bits for you. But in a volunteer role with a charity, there's obviously, charities deal with money. There's a financial element to it. And when I first started, so like the new person around the table, financial information was presented on printed out spreadsheets that, number one, were really tiny. So trying to actually, work out what was on there, I found really difficult and hard to read. And what I was being shown wasn't making sense to me. And I was thinking, I don't I don't really get this. But around the table, lots of other trustees were people from business or financial, accountants and things. And because they were all, seemed perfectly happy what was being presented, I'm thinking, right, well, it must be okay then. It must be all right, and it's me not getting it. And then, we have another few meetings and I'm trying to look at these figures, and literally in my head, I'm thinking this doesn't add up in the literal sense of these figures don't add up. I don't understand how it's working, but, nobody else seems bothered about it. So just keep quiet, because you don't want to make a fool of yourself. And you don't really know much about this. So just go with it. You must have misunderstood it. And then in the end, I was like, I just don't get this at all. And I was like, please, could somebody just explain to me? Because when I look at this, that doesn't seem to make sense. And where's that number come from, basically? And of course, at that point, somebody went, oh yeah, I think we've double counted that. And it's like, so it wasn't right.
Yeah. But your thinking was holding you back.
I was like, I ain't going to say anything because nobody else is bothered.
Because you were telling yourself, A, from my previous experience, numbers weren't my strength. B, I'm the new girl. I'm in a new spot here.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to look silly or inadequate. So that imposter stuff was holding you back. So if we're looking at the rethinking, what you were telling yourself is, I'm not a numbers person. I'm the new girl. I'll look silly.
Yeah.
So that imposter thinking was coming in. So if you were to reframe the thinking, now what's interesting is you raised it and someone went, oh, you're right. And we'll talk in a minute about actually sometimes when we express vulnerability in this moment, others also can breathe a sigh of relief because they're also feeling that vulnerability. But what would you change your thinking to? Because your thinking was telling you, oh, I'm not a numbers person.
I would change it to, numbers are not my strength, but I know something about numbers and I have worked with numbers. And when I look at this, it does not make sense to me. So it's perfectly reasonable to ask for some more explanation. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not saying anybody's deliberately done something wrong with the numbers. I'm just asking for more explanation for it to make sense to me in order that I can understand it and then, make more informed decisions or maybe contribute to the discussion more because I understand where the numbers have come from.
So what's interesting, you're changing your thinking to, instead of I'm not a numbers person, you're saying, well, that's not my strength, but I do have these experiences.
I know something.
Because you spent years as a head teacher, and so although that wouldn't have been your specialism, because you had a brilliant person who would do all the number crunching for you, you do have that strategic financial experience. So it's about reminding yourself of what you do have alongside the bit, but also that simple change that you made, which is, it's not that I can't, you just changed it, it's not a strength or a specialism, however I've also got, isn't it? So just that simple change in what you're telling yourself allows that to happen. But it's also interesting when you expressed a vulnerability, because you said, could you help me here? Because I don't understand this. I can't make sense of this. Can you help me? That interestingly, it then brought out, oh, actually, I did know about numbers as part of that.
Numbers,
We were talking a bit before we went live on record, didn't we? Around sometimes when we express a vulnerability, it starts a vulnerability loop that others can also then go, oh yeah, I didn't understand that bit either.
I wasn't sure about that, or
and that can be a really key part for us.
So what happens, Colin, to come together to put us in that position where we feel we've got this, let's call it imposter thinking, not imposter syndrome? Where does it come from? How do we get there?
So I think there are a number of things that can sometimes feel that. It's not in every single case, but it might be that there's some of the bits I'm going to mention. I think sometimes there can be a threat, a kind of pressure or a threat that comes from it. We feel under pressure, or we're telling ourselves we're under pressure, and therefore that brings an anxiety. Now, there might not be a real pressure. It could be what we're telling ourselves. But I think sometimes it's a moment of pressure. I think there's also, that can sometimes link to a vulnerability of the past, something we made sense of in the past that, for your example, one of I'm not good at numbers. Mine might be, ironically, I've written 2 books, but I wouldn't have said that writing was my thing. And so therefore I might feel vulnerable in that element because it's something from the past. And it's very easy for us to forget the things actually we do achieve, but there could just be a vulnerability from the past kicking in. And the next one, I think, is some binary thinking. So linked to the pressure, binary being high stakes, win or lose. I'm going to look good here, I'm going to look silly. So in one sense, if we take your one at that meeting, you were the new person, you were amongst lots of big financial people. And so you saw, if I ask a question, if I make a comment, it's going to be high stakes. I'm either going to look okay or I'm going to look foolish.
Really silly,
So I think often, and it might not be that it is actually high stakes, but we're telling ourselves it's high stakes. And then another one that can come in sometimes is a tiny little thing, like a little comment, a little look, or a slight scenario that we process and make sense of. So there could be someone that's huffing. It could be someone that does a little in-breath or a little roll of eyes. For those of you who are watching it, you've seen it. For those of you who are listening, Anna just did a little eye roll. We will process that through the lens of this is all about me. And in one sense, we make a little conspiracy of this. And it could be that that's happened even before we go to say anything. But again, we're picking up threat in the room. Somebody said something, Jemima over there does an eye roll. And we're going, well, actually, if Jemima eye rolls when that person said something, then if I say something, will they eye roll at me as well? Does this place feel safe? So again, if we're looking at your description earlier, you were sitting in a room where you were telling yourself, these people all know about finance. And at that point, you were telling yourself, I don't. So therefore, this doesn't feel safe for me to express something. And it can be sometimes either what you're telling yourself about their status, or it can be little moments. And sometimes you'll get a combination of all of those things come together that fuels that within you. So I can remember really early days of being a head teacher, and I would go to these county meetings or meetings to review, how we would move pupils to safer places. And you'd come in and there were big wigs from the county council and lots of other head teachers who were more experienced than me. And I can remember sitting there thinking, oh, I'm just a minnow. And that's where the son of a farmhand came in. Because perhaps, again, you were telling yourself about the status of the people in the room. And you were telling yourself, all you need is for somebody to eye roll somebody else. And you're telling yourself, this doesn't feel safe now.
I'll just sit here and keep quiet.
Or somebody snaps back at something somebody said, and you're telling yourself, this doesn't feel safe. So bits like that would have brought the son of a farmhand thing in me, because you've got a combination of, you're telling yourself, now if I say anything, it's high stakes, because you tell yourself about yourself, rather than going, well, actually, maybe that person over there is really grumpy. Maybe that person over there is putting other people down because actually they feel a bit vulnerable themselves. So they'll make sure they get in first.
So what can help us with all of that, Colin, to move away from this imposter thinking and manage situations like that do feel high stakes, threat, not safe?
Well, I think there's a number of things, some of which I'm going to signpost back some key bits in my book, Everyday Alchemy. Everybody buy the book, not just because I don't make loads of money from it, it's the stuff in it is really good material. So the first thing is to use the pause, reflect, and then respond. So what tends to happen is we tell ourselves this story, don't we, that I'm just a, and we start to that thinking pulls us down. So the first thing is to pause and notice. Notice and then reflect on, what is my thinking? What's my thinking here, and is it helpful? So in that pause moment, you're just going, what's my thinking? And how am I feeling? Actually, I'm feeling smaller because I'm telling myself this. So let's reflect on that, and then ask yourself this reflection question: is this helpful? Is this helpful, or is it unhelpful, this thinking? Is this lifting me up to enable me to perform better, or is it pulling me down? So just to reflect on that, and then ask yourself, is this true, or is there a mismatch here? So a lot of the work I do with some of my coaching clients is, well, let's look for the mismatch. I'm telling myself I'm the son of a farmhand and I'm small and therefore I'm not very good in this moment. But is that true? Well, yes, I am the son of a farmhand. But is it that I've got nothing to offer here? What is my experience? And that's where I said to you, building on that, go, well, no, actually, I've got all this experience here of working with these children. I've done this many years of teaching. I've actually been a head teacher for this number of years. This is the experience I have. These are the children I've worked with.
You've got all of that to draw on.
Yeah. So now this is a mismatch. Actually, I can bring more to this. So pause, reflect, respond is the first part of that's needed.
Yeah, and then once you've kind of noticed and acknowledged this thinking, what's the next step?
I think the next step is then about this everyday alchemy. Again, to refer back to the book, instead of thinking this is binary pass fail, instead of saying to myself, I've got to do really well here, or I'm going to look a donut, or I'm going to fail, it is to be able to say, right, what can I learn from this moment? Not see this as one moment. So I talk in the book, I talk regularly to clients about this. Jane, the artist, a friend of mine, when she paints a painting, she obviously wants the painting to be good, but she's also saying, what can I learn from this painting so I improve myself as an artist so that my next painting becomes even better and even better. I learn from the painting as much as I give to the painting. So we're then taking that into the moment. Instead of saying, in this moment, I've got to do brilliantly, we're saying, in this moment, I'm going to do the best I can with all that I have, and I'm going to be thoughtful in the way I present things. And I'm also going to learn from this moment. So we reduce the stakes and reduce the pressure, because this isn't about me being marvellous. It's about me doing well, but learning from it. And afterwards, I'll reflect, what could I do differently? What could I do better? I think the other bit to just remind ourselves is that we might be seeing some eye rolls or some behaviour from other people, and we're telling us this is about ourselves. Actually, this tells us more about the other person. If you've got an eye-rolling person, does that tell you more about the eye roller or all about me? If somebody makes a mistake in the room and they get an eye roll or a huff from someone, let's weigh these people up. Someone who's done their best in a meeting, got a thought, got an idea, shared it, might not be perfect, but there's some good stuff in it. And then the person that eye rolls, whose character is this telling us more about? And so it's reminding yourself in the moment that actually let them. So just to cite some work from another brilliant book called Let Them, it's talking about let them behave like that. Let them roll their eyes. Let me concentrate on who I want to be in this moment. Because I can't stop them eye rolling.
No, but you can control how you respond, behave, and I'm guessing that the importance of the thinking, how you're thinking.
How you're thinking, I can concentrate my thinking. So that book by Mel Robbins, if you get a chance to read it, is brilliant because it allows you then to depersonalize. This is not all about me. This is actually about them. The eye roller, what life are they living where they have to put somebody down by rolling their eyes when they're trying their best in that? So if we work on the everyday alchemy of just not seeing this as pass fail, do my best but learn from it, I'll reduce the pressure. If we use a bit of Mel Robbins, let them roll their eyes, because this isn't about me, that's about their character, that they feel the need to put somebody down. And if they want to behave like that, let them. But I'm going to focus on who I want to be in this moment as part of that process. Yeah? So Anna, what have you found has helped you on the journey? There are some bits that I've pulled out, but what is it you've found?
I think that, you use the word reflect, and I think pausing to think calmly about the situation is helpful. I'm not saying it's easy when you're in the midst of it, but just taking that little moment and then almost like giving yourself a good talking to and asking some basic questions. Am I really completely lacking skills in this area? Answer, of course you're not. No, don't be so daft.
You wouldn't have got to this position.
Wouldn't have got to this position if you had. So actually that's a no, and be honest with yourself. And also it's about not carrying things forward into the next situation in a negative way. So for example, if you apply for a promotion and you don't get it, and it's, you've worked really hard on your application, it's devastating, and what you can easily feel is, I wasn't good enough. They didn't pick me. They didn't want me because I am not good enough. And actually, that's really not likely to be true. More likely is to be that for that particular role on that day, they'd got another applicant who had a slightly different skill set or a little bit more experience, or had, just put in a better interview. It happens. And equally, it could be that they were a load of numpties and they just didn't realise what was sitting in front of them and how good you only could have had it. So so then, when you go for the next promotion, if you go into it thinking, well, I was no good last time, they didn't pick me, they're not going to pick me this time, that's going to impact on your performance. So it's about learning from that and reflecting, but don't take it forward. And again, take that long, hard look at yourself. Let's have a bit of perspective here. I didn't get that job. That doesn't mean I'm never going to get a promotion. Yeah. Let's not catastrophize it. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be stuck because nobody's ever going to want to pick me.
Yeah.
And really be realistic and don't be a chicken licking. The sky's falling. The sky's falling. Just put it in perspective. Learn from it. Move on into the next situation, taking that learning with you.
And as I'm listening to you there, I'm reminded of the phrase we used earlier, it's not all about you.
Yeah.
Because that promotion you're not getting might be, as you say, because someone else has done a little bit extra to you. So that isn't about your inadequacy, it's about their gifting. It could be that the person has not appointed you because of some experiences they've had and they're looking for a particular genre or person, or they've had someone like you before and they're looking for something new. So it isn't about you, it's actually about the other person that was in the role and they need a change, or the person's decision making is perhaps skewed by experience they've had. So this isn't actually about you or your performance, it's about other people and their performances.
Which are all things you can't control.
Yeah.
But what you can control is how you respond and react to it and what you carry forward into the next.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes the everyday alchemy stuff, isn't it? Like, what have I learned from this experience? What do I take forward to the next time as part of that process? So we've explored that imposter syndrome doesn't exist. Imposter thinking definitely does. Imposter thinking can be brought about by different situations and different pressures, and how we start to change it is about changing our thinking and using things like pausing and reflecting particularly on it, realizing it's not all about you, but it can be about others. Now, is it possible that, because we think about imposter thinking, or imposter syndrome as many call it, as bad.
Yeah, as a negative thing.
But is there any good in it?
I think that there can be if you can manage your thinking.
Yeah.
And if you can manage your thinking, then I think it can help you to reflect. Because often you're questioning yourself. So it's having that time to reflect and think about it. And if you are being that reflective, then I think that can help stop you becoming complacent and assuming that you know the best about something. Because you might not say, it's challenging and it's not great to be feeling like that. But if you can turn that into a positive, turn your trash into treasure that you can use next time. Okay, let's reflect on it. Let's not be complacent. Let's learn from this, and let's not make assumptions.
Yeah, that sounds. I often use the descriptor with people around like a rev counter. That almost when it overplays, then it pulls you right down. But actually, if we get the balance right, so that we move into humility, then it becomes helpful. As that process.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That it does. It's like keeping us humble and grounded.
Yes.
And that can be helpful, like you say, because it's stopping us almost like overcooking it. Yeah.
So that brings the humility in, so that we avoid us becoming brash. It avoids us becoming so brash that we start to make mistakes. So that's almost the overconfidence of leadership. So if we bring it back into humility, where we understand ourselves. There's a bit about the emotional intelligence bit. We understand ourselves. This is what I'm good at. This is an area that I need to develop. This is what I know other people are good at. So that we then start to work collaboratively with people because we've got that humility. So I think if we can get the level right, the problem is then we can almost go way down into the negative scale with that humility, where we go, actually, I'm rubbish. So it's about dialing us up to go, I'm not perfect. I'm not brilliant. I do have these gaps. I do have these weaker areas, but I've also got other people who are stronger. So if we can dial it up so that it becomes humility rather than
it's like finding the sweet
imposter
spot.
thinking. If we overdo that, of course we can become brash, and then we become too confident, make mistakes. So I think if it allows us to just bring ourselves into reality, that we're not perfect, I think that's really helpful.
That's good,
And I think if it also allows us to again, it's holding it in balance. If we're overplaying it, it pulls us down. But if we can hold it in balance, it allows us to go, I don't know it all. I am not perfect. I do need the help of others. Like in your case, you were saying, I don't think finance is my real strength. So I'll ask advice from people who I know have strengths in finance. So you would bring that in. So I think if you can hold that balance, it allows you to go, I don't know it all. I am not the bee's knees, so I need help. So then it allows you to work more collaboratively. So I think if we can use the imposter thinking, first of all, we need to press pause. We need to realise it's pulling us down. We need to dial it up. But if we can dial it up enough to then be able to go, and I'm not perfect, so I need help, then it becomes a useful tool and allows us to work collaboratively. So, Anna, we've gone through a bit of this process of seeing it's not a syndrome, it's thinking. We've looked at actually if we can dial it up a little, it can be really helpful. But how can we manage imposter thinking when it comes up? Are there any other strategies or things that you've learnt?
Yeah, I think if it's a work situation and you're sitting there thinking they're going to find out, they're going to catch me out, just remind yourself they chose you for the job for the reason. There was a good reason why they picked you, and they wouldn't have picked you if you didn't have the skill set to do it.
So is that a question you almost ask yourself then? What did they choose me for?
What did they choose me for? What did they see in me that they thought would bring something to this role? Right, let's get on now and bring that to the fore and use those skills or that experience to make this situation better and to solve this issue or challenge or whatever it is. And I think you remind yourself of previous times when you felt like it and actually you did know what you were doing. Just that sort of little pep talk to yourself. And I still come back to just saying to yourself, you say it to other people, don't worry, you've got this. Say it to yourself, you've got this, you've got the skills, you've got the experience. They picked you for a reason. Now just crack on and get the job done.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And what about you, Colin? What tips would you give people for managing it?
So I think it's pulling out some of the stuff we've kind of talked about already. I think the first thing is just to acknowledge that emotion. So the Steve Peters stuff, acknowledge your emotion, remind yourself of the okay. So acknowledge your emotion is the first thing. I'm feeling a little bit, and then describe how you're feeling. I'm feeling a bit worried. I'm feeling a bit inadequate. And you don't need to say it out loud, clearly, but internally you're saying it to yourself. Because you're just recognising that part in your brain that's just saying this feels a bit uncomfortable, feels a bit threatening. Then it's to use a bit of thankfulness. To be able to say, okay, so what does my experience bring me? So like in my case, if I'm telling myself I'm the son of a farmhand, to be okay, so what did that experience bring me? Well, it enabled me to really understand, at the risk of sounding like a song, the common people. What does it feel like to be one of the common people? What does it feel like to be perhaps overlooked at times? And actually, if I've experienced that, I know what I need to do then to allow people to feel seen and heard. I know what that feels like. So I'm going to use that to allow me to see and hear people. I understand what it's like to be the everyday person. So I'm going to make sure I include and involve. So just being thankful for the experience rather than seeing it as a weakness. What does this bring me? that I can use. And so I think that element of thankfulness, also thankfulness releases a hormone that counteracts cortisol, which means actually you might help your thinking to feel a little bit clearer as well. And then remind yourself of the okay. Actually, I've also got all these other experiences since that I've learned and built upon. I have been here before. I have got something to share. I do have these experiences that I can bring. And also, we can bring questions. It's interesting with your one earlier. You didn't come in with, I don't get it and I think it's wrong. You came in with a question. Could someone help me here?
Yeah.
So we can always bring questions.
Questions, yeah.
And I think the last bit for me is about collaboration. Okay, so I don't feel confident in these areas. So let's collaborate with people.
Find somebody that can
really help. And I would say one of the great things about good leaders, now I'm going to now class myself hopefully as one of these, is I like to bring in people that were different and better than me in those areas where I wasn't so strong, to make sure as a collaborative we brought a strength. So if I'm feeling not so strong in these areas, then tap into those who are strong. Involve them, include them, praise them. Could you bring this? Because I know you've got a real strength in this area. That will work in so many ways because they'll feel good about themselves. I've got something to contribute. I feel valued. And you're also going, well, that's good because I felt a bit weaker in this area. Another bit I might throw in is what we talked about earlier is just to be real, to be vulnerable. Actually, I'm not feeling so strong in this area. I need your help. And when we share vulnerability, we will start the vulnerability loop that then means quite often people will go, oh, good, I didn't understand that either. Or, I feel a bit worried in this area. And you then make this a safer environment for people then to be real, and that's where they'll grow from as well. So I think all those things will help. So Anna, what about you? What are your top tips? Because we always end our session on top tips. So what are your top tips around imposter thinking?
So imposter thinking, I think the first thing to hold on to, it's not uncommon. And if you are sat, say, in a meeting having imposter thinking, I'll guarantee you won't be the only person around that table.
No, there's a good percentage
that kind of imposter thinking. So just remember that. And it comes out to it's not all about you. Other people will be feeling that.
I'd probably add, if they haven't got imposter thinking, they're probably the sort of people that need to have a little bit of it. Because they're probably too overconfident and making mistakes. So, but you're right, lots of people in the room.
Yeah, and then in terms of managing that thinking, I do think it's really important to say to yourself, I've got this. Give yourself that calming grounding. I've got this. I have done things like this before. I've faced challenges like this. I'm going to, tackle this, address it to the best of my ability. And if I have got gaps in my knowledge or experience, then there will be people I can ask, and it's okay to ask. Say, could you, talk me through this? Can you give me more of an explanation? Can you help me with this, please? And I think finally, and it's probably the most important thing, is just because you feel it does not mean it's true. So.
Yeah, that could almost be a little mantra you say to yourself in those moments as well.
Just because I'm feeling this doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Colin?
Well, I think I've got those key ones which we mentioned just now, which I think are just acknowledge. I think I'll probably take us back as well to that, making it not the big threat moment, because often it will be you're in a moment, which is why you're feeling this.
That
high stakes. Yeah. Just reframe. This is everyday alchemy. I just need to do the best I can in this moment and then reflect on it afterwards. Like Jane the artist, I'm going to paint the best painting I can, but I'm going to learn from this experience for the next time. Because I think if you then just accept, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to create the best art I can in this moment and learn and grow from it, then we can build. It enables us to change that dial where we've gone into imposter thinking right down low, to bring it into humility. That means we can learn and grow from things. That means we'll become stronger and better as it goes along. So great. Well, thank you for joining me, Anna, as we've explored. Hopefully our listeners and watchers will have perhaps joined us on this, that maybe it doesn't have to be imposter syndrome. It can be imposter thinking, and that we've covered some key things that maybe can begin that journey of it not having the same power or impact on us. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Good. Thank you everyone for joining us on the Leadership Lounge. It's been great to spend time with you. We hope you've enjoyed maybe changing it from imposter syndrome to imposter thinking. And we look forward to you joining us next time in the Leadership Lounge.